So the software allows you to calibrate all of the servos and to increase the speed, change the throw distance. What you want to do is you basically want to configure it such that brass is held and released without error, but you don't want to have the servo travel too far, because the servo travel time is really the limiting factor of how fast the unit operates. And you can also do some debugging and testing with various servos as well in that screen. So with this screen, the top button here, you can either kick one brass, which moves it through the system. You can right click and it will acquire a new image. Right now we're set up for 9mm and these are the calibers I have in the software right now. There's no limitation. I'll add more as I get the configurations for those. You can reinitialize all the hardware, take essentially real-time video instead of pictures for focusing, setting the focus of your camera. And clicking on this brings up the servo calibration screen. Select the camera. And of course you can save images and that's useful for running through the quality control software. All of the metadata is saved with the image, so you can go back and classify all of the false positives and false negatives and true positives to come up with a true accuracy rate that the system is running at. So if you're selling brass to your customers, you can say, all right, we are at 98% true positive rate, and if they were picky, you could overfill their order by 2%, or if you ran your software more accurate, you could cut that down to 1% of loss for sorted brass. So in run mode, auto is what you're normally going to select. Single basically analyzes a single round, and basically that's just to check and make sure everything's running correctly. Stop, of course. You can put it into a learn mode. For the learn mode, this is a supervised learning mode where it will advance a brass, and if it can't classify it, what it'll do is it'll halt and wait for the operator to select the bucket that the brass goes into. That's what I call a supervised learning mode. The next mode is batch learning mode. So if you have 50 or so rounds of ammo that you want to train on, for example, Federal, then in batch mode it'll say, okay, we're going to batch train on Federal, and it'll understand that every piece of brass that goes through is a Federal round and learn on all of those rounds. That's a lot easier than doing it manually. And for the buckets, right now the software works with 4. There's no real limitation other than actually you do have to have a physical bucket, which kind of limits how many buckets you can have. But if you right click on the bucket, you can pull up information specifically for that bucket. Don't worry about the video here. That's an artifact from my video driver. So you can change the position of the servo to locate it directly over the bucket. You can reset the training images, or you can reset an individual training image. And you see here I have tooltip text pretty much for all of the buttons. You can reset the count right here. That'll affect these numbers right here. The error threshold. If you change this number to lower, a lower error threshold, the machine becomes more strict, and what happens is it will send more brass into the mixed bucket as a false negative. And if you think that too much brass is going into your mixed bucket, you can increase the threshold, and it will begin putting more brass into your defined buckets at the risk of having false positives. So you can tune that to however strict or loose you want it. And then you can also change the radius of the identified circle of the brass. That's what